Hi everyone and welcome to this new episode of Bow Tips. In this video, I'm going to give you all the tips and techniques that are used in the Archer kit, which is very popular in the Minecraft PvP community. This kit is composed of an infinity bow, usually punch 2, a full leather armor, and an underpearl. Moreover, you get the speed 1 effect during the whole fight. I will give you tips and advice from the most basic to the most complicated. So, the video is dedicated to everyone, whether you are beginner or already experienced. And if you don't play this particular kit, it's okay. There will always be techniques that you can use in Archer without speed. The fights you will see during this video, to illustrate the tips I'm going to give you, are fights against very good archers and even some of the best in the community. But we're going to start slowly. First of all, with some advice for the archer beginners or those who have played only a little bit. The first thing you have to do is to be aware of the trajectory of the arrows, their speed, and also the speed of your movements. To try to become aware of this, there is a training that you can do as a pair, so with a friend or anyone who wants to train with you, and the best would be him to be stronger or at the same level as you. You'll start far away from each other, and then only one of you will start shooting. For example, the person playing with you. And you will only dodge his arrows. And I say dodge, that is to say by reflex, and especially without jumping. This is very important because that's what will really help you progress in long-range dodging. So I repeat, you are going to dodge his arrows without shooting and without jumping or even moving before the other fires his arrows. You are allowed to move only when the arrow has been fired. So as I say, you start quite far away, and when you get used to it and find it too simple, you can move closer and closer. You'll see by doing this from time to time, something will click at some point and you'll be able to dodge the arrows a lot better. Then you exchange roles. This time you are shooting and the person with you is trying to dodge. Focus on your opponent and try to shoot him. It makes sense so far, doesn't it? And it will be more difficult than if he tries to shoot at the same time, but it is very good accuracy training. And if you can't hit at the end of, say, 20 hours, move closer little by little, but always keep a good distance, more than 50 blocks. You also need to have a fairly high firing rate. So start loading the bow as soon as you have shot an arrow, and release it as soon as it is fully loaded. The most important thing in Speed Archer is to put pressure on the opponent. And I'm going to insist a lot on this point in this video because it's really important. So you shoot the opponent, and while he is dodging, you fire another arrow quickly so he doesn't have time to react and dodge the second arrow. Finally, once you feel confident about dodging and aiming, you can start doing real fights, where both of you shoot. If you're a beginner, start by playing in a very long range, far enough, and then, as you gain confidence, gradually move closer and closer. After this little practical training, we'll move on to more theoretical but very important things. It is important to know that there are three main types of dodging. The first one is moving to the side while looking at the opponent. This is what I already called sidewalk in one of my videos, and it is the most used movement in the archer kit. It is also the one that is the best to use if you do the training I just explained. Then you have the dodge by jumping. I told you not to jump in the previous exercise, but it is for a good reason. In long range, you have to jump very little, and most of the best archer players will even never jump at all. Why is that? Well, because it's very easy for a good archer to hit someone who is constantly jumping. You just shoot while he's jumping and where he's going to land. And in many cases, it is impossible to dodge. So remember that, from a great distance, you should jump as little as possible. So when are we going to need to jump then? Well, it's mostly in mid or short range, when you won't have time to dodge just by walking sideways. When, for example, you haven't reacted fast enough and the arrow is almost on you, you're going to have to jump to be able to dodge it, because a jump allows you to move faster sideways than walking. I'm showing you in the background some situations in which you can jump, and in my opinion, the minimum distance at which you can dodge by reflex an arrow that comes right at you. When the distance is too short, of course, we will have difficulty dodging in reaction to the arrows, and we will have to move unpredictably to avoid being hit. This is called strafing, but that's not the aim of this video. There is also a last type of dodging, which I will present in the more advanced tips section, because it is much more difficult to do. We'll now move on to slightly more advanced tips, starting with the use of the underpearl. The pearl will have two uses. The first one is to throw it away from your opponent in order to get away from him if you are too low in health and he comes close. You have to be careful because he can then pearl in on you, so it's better if the opponent uses it before you. The second is to do the opposite. That is to say, pearl right next to your opponent to put pressure on him and finish him off when he is low. It's really important not to use your pearl unnecessarily. It's true that you don't necessarily use it during the fight, but it can make you win if you use it correctly. I'm now going to talk about combos, because yes, bow combos do exist. It's harder to make a combo in the archer kit with speed than without speed, but it's possible, as you can see. I can give you an advice that can help you to put combos in archer speed with punch too. When you hit your opponent, you have to have the reflex to aim a little higher directly when you hit him. And keep shooting fast, as I said at the beginning of the video. What will happen is that your opponent gets hit by the first arrow, then he is pushed on a few blocks. If your second arrow is well placed while he is being ejected, he will have very little time to react and dodge that second arrow. Now, I'm going to tell you about boosts. What are boosts? It is shooting an arrow at yourself to take advantage of the punch 2 enchantment that is on your bow and project you forward. It also works with punch 1, but it is much less effective. The boost can be useful in some cases because the arrow you shoot is not going to be loaded at all and will hardly do you any damage. When can it be interesting to boost yourself? Firstly, when you want to get closer to your opponent. Either because he is stronger than you in long range or because he is low. conversely, you can also move away from him if you want to play long range. Another use of the boost can be to break the rhythm a bit if you feel under pressure. But there are also other ways to do this, such as running by jumping several times to one side, with, for example, a double or triple jump. Doing this will allow you to break the rhythm again and take a breath. One last tip I can give you when you are under pressure is another movement. This time, instead of jumping, you are just going to walk or run in one direction for a while. The opponent, in order to shoot you, will have to predict when you are going to stop running or walking. And what you can do is pretend to stop and then jump to one side or keep running. This technique, many good players use it in mid, long range, when they are under pressure, and Skildus called it the train, which I think is a good name for this movement. We'll finish with some tips that require a little more level and that I'm going to classify in the expert category. In this video, I didn't talk a lot about the different ways of shooting. I basically say that you have to load your arrows to the maximum and shoot fast enough. Well, actually, to shoot even faster, you can do what we call flick shots. That is to say, shots that are not loaded to the maximum. Of course, they will do less damage, but it will allow you to put much more pressure on the opponent than if you constantly wait the arrow to be fully loaded. Flick shots are mostly used in mid-short range and not so much in long range. For example, if we have to dodge an arrow while jumping and our arrow is not fully loaded, we can make a flick shot while jumping and aiming a little higher than usual, since the arrow is not fully loaded. Then, if you push a bit further the fact of not loading your arrow too much, you get the air shots. An air shot is a shot making an arrow take a bell-shaped trajectory, and it's possible by shooting very high and not very hard, so that the arrow takes time to reach the opponent. The aim is disturbing the opponent because he will concentrate on the trajectory of this arrow, but at the same time you will be able to shoot another arrow, this time loaded and straight, which will be in the air at the same time as the first one. The opponent won't be able to concentrate on the two arrows coming at him, and in some cases he will be shot by one of the two arrows. This technique is very difficult, and I don't think that anyone has yet mastered it perfectly in Speed Archer. But I wanted to talk about it anyway because it exists and it is a very powerful technique. We're going to finish with one last very important tip. Do you remember when I spoke earlier about the different types of dodging? I said there were 3, and I left one aside to keep it in the expert section. This last type of dodging is moving to one side, looking at that side, and running straight. The most efficient way is to do that and then move your cursor directly back on your opponent so you don't waste time. At real speed, you get this. It looks weird when you've never seen it before, but in fact it's possible thanks to the speed one, which allows you to run fast enough to dodge an arrow coming straight at you. Finally, because I like to give names to the different techniques that don't have any, I'm going to call it the side run in a very original way. That's it for this video about the Speed Archer kit. I hope it helped you. In the description you will find the playlist of the videos with other archery tips. At the moment each one is in French, but I'd like to make more in English in the future. In the description you will also find the video of the complete fights of the Archer Speed tournament I won on PvP Gym. I just took some parts of those fights to illustrate what I had to tell you today. So feel free to check out this video to see what the whole matches look like. It's actually a replay of one of my streams on Twitch. So if you're interested to see how I play, or if you just want to chat, feel free to follow me on my channel www.twitch.tv/Thipsouw. Thanks again for watching this video. If you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments, and I will see you soon for next video or on Twitch.